I've never told anyone the full story of what happened that night, mostly because I'm afraid they'll think I lost my mind. But it's been 4 years now, and every December 31st it crawls back into my head like a splinter I can't dig out. So here it is, exactly how I remember it. My name's Elena. In 2021, I was 29, freshly single after a breakup that left me hollowed out. I didn't want to spend New Year's pretending to be happy at some crowded bar. So when my old college friend Mara invited me to her family's lake house upstate, I said yes, without thinking twice. It was supposed to be low-key, just Mara, her boyfriend Nate, her younger brother Lucas, and me. The house sat on a small frozen lake, surrounded by dense pines, no neighbors closer than a mile, perfect for hiding from the world. We got there late afternoon on the 30th. The place was beautiful in a lonely kind of way. 2 stories, wraparound porch, big stone fireplace. Snow was already deep. The lake, a perfect white sheet under the grey sky. Mara's parents hadn't used the house in years, so everything felt slightly abandoned. Dust on the windowsills, sheets over the furniture, that faint, musty smell of a place closed up too long. That first night, we drank hot toddies, played cards, laughed too loud to cover the quiet. I slept in one of the upstairs bedrooms overlooking the lake. I remember falling asleep to the sound of wind moving through the trees, feeling almost peaceful. New Year's Eve day, we bundled up and walked out onto the ice. The lake was solid, thick enough to hold a truck, Nate claimed. We messed around, sliding in our boots, taking stupid selfies. At one point, Lucas pointed to the far shore and said, "There used to be another cabin over there, burned down in the 80s. My dad says no one ever rebuilt because the owner disappeared the same winter." We all laughed, called it an urban legend, but I noticed Mara went quiet. Evening came fast. We cooked pasta, opened too many bottles of wine, put on a playlist of early 2000s throwbacks. Around 10, we started a fire in the pit on the porch and dragged chairs out to watch the stars. The sky was crystal clear, millions of them, brighter than I'd ever seen. No light pollution, no sound, except the crackle of logs and the occasional creak of the house settling. At 11:47 p.m., the music cut out. Not faded, cut, like someone yanked the plug. The sudden silence felt huge. Then we heard it, footsteps on the lake. Slow, steady crunching, coming toward the house. We all froze. Nate grabbed a flashlight and aimed it across the ice. Nothing. Just empty white, stretching into darkness. The footsteps kept coming. Closer, closer, then stopped. Dead quiet again. Mara laughed nervously. Probably a deer, but deer don't walk in perfect rhythm. We went inside, locked the door, tried to shake it off. Midnight hit on Nate's phone. We cheered half-heartedly, clinked glasses, kissed cheeks. No ball drop, no fireworks, just us pretending everything was fine. Around 1:30, people started drifting to bed. I was the last one up, nursing the last of the wine by the dying fire. That's when I noticed the sliding glass door to the porch was cracked open, just an inch. I know we'd closed it. I'd checked twice because I'm paranoid about that stuff. I got up to shut it and saw footprints in the snow on the porch. Bare feet, small, narrow, leading from the steps up to the door, and stopping right at the glass. No prints leading away. My skin went cold. I slammed the door, locked it, pulled the curtains tight. I went upstairs, heart hammering, and crawled into bed, fully clothed. The room was freezing. The old radiator clanked but barely warmed anything. I lay there listening, telling myself it was kids pulling a prank, or the wind, or anything rational. Then the whispering started, soft, right outside my door. A woman's voice, low and melodic, like she was singing under her breath. I couldn't make out words, just the rise and fall of a lullaby or something older. It went on for minutes, circling the hallway, pausing at each bedroom door. I texted the group chat. "You guys hearing this?" No one replied. Everyone was asleep or pretending to be. The singing stopped as suddenly as it began. Silence pressed in so hard my ears rang. I must have dozed off eventually, because I woke with a jolt to the sound of my doorknob turning. slowly, testing. Once, twice, then nothing. I didn't move, didn't breathe. After what felt like forever, I heard the soft pad of bare feet moving away, down the hall, down the stairs. I waited until grey morning light leaked through the curtains before I left the room. The house was quiet, everyone still asleep. I went downstairs and stopped dead on the bottom step. The sliding door was wide open again. Snow had blown in, a light dusting across the hardwood. And in that snow were wet, bare footprints, small, leading from the porch straight to the staircase, then up. They stopped right where I was standing, then turned and went back down, out onto the porch, across the snow, straight to the lake. I followed them outside. The trail went all the way to the ice, then just ended. No return prints, like whoever it was had walked into the middle of the frozen lake and vanished. We left before noon. No one talked about it much on the drive home. Mara kept saying it was probably a squatter or teenagers messing around. But I saw her face in the rearview mirror. She was scared. I looked up the property records later. In January 1987, a woman named Ruth Caldwell lived alone in the cabin across the lake. On New Year's Eve, she had a party. Just her and one guest, a man no one ever identified. The next morning, the cabin was on fire. They found her body inside, but no trace of the man. The official cause was accidental. Space heater tipped over. But locals always said something else, that she'd been waiting for someone who never showed up, that every year on New Year's, she walks the lake looking for him. Mara sold the house the next spring. I don't go to lake houses anymore, and every New Year's Eve, no matter how loud the party, I keep my shoes on and the doors locked, because some people never stop waiting for the guest who's coming to take them home, and sometimes they come looking on the wrong side of the lake. Story 2. It was New Year's Eve, 2018, and I was stuck working the late shift at a small convenience store on the outskirts of town. I'm 28, single, and didn't have any big plans anyway. So when my boss offered double pay to cover from 8 p.m. till closing at 2 a.m., I jumped on it. The store sat in a quiet neighborhood, mostly older folks and families who turned in early. I figured it'd be dead after midnight. My name's Jake, by the way. I brought a book and my phone to kill time, streaming old movies on low volume behind the counter. The only customers were a few last-minute partygoers grabbing beer or snacks before the ball drop. Around 10 p.m., this guy comes in, tall, lanky, maybe in his 40s, wearing a worn leather jacket and a beanie pulled low over his eyes. He didn't say much, just wandered the aisles, picking up random stuff, a pack of gum, some chips, a lighter. When he paid, he stared at me a bit too long, like he was sizing me up. "Happy New Year," I said, trying to be polite. He just nodded and left. Nothing weird yet, but something about his eyes stuck with me. Cold, almost empty. Midnight hit. I watched the ball drop on my phone. Fireworks echoed in the distance, but the store was empty. I texted a few friends, wishing them a good year, and settled back with my book. About 12:30, the door chime rang again. It was the same guy from earlier. This time, he had a backpack slung over one shoulder. He grabbed a coffee from the machine and came to the counter. "Working alone tonight?" he asked, voice gravelly. I nodded, ringing him up. "Yeah, just me. Slow night." He lingered, sipping his coffee, eyes flicking toward the backroom door. "You close soon?" 2 a.m., I said. He smiled, thin, unnatural. "Mind if I hang around a bit? Too cold out there." I didn't love it, but it's a public store. "Sure, just don't make a mess." He wandered to the magazine rack, flipping pages without reading. Every few minutes, he'd glance at me. A silence grew heavy. I pretended to busy myself restocking cigarettes. Then the power flickered. Lights dimmed, buzzed, came back. He didn't flinch, just kept staring. Around 1:15, he came back to the counter. "Got a bathroom?" "Employees only," I lied. Policy, but also Gut feeling. His smile faded. Come on, man. It's New Year's. I shook my head. Sorry. He leaned in closer. I smelled stale cigarettes and something sour. You sure you're alone back there? My stomach dropped. Yeah, I'm sure. He nodded slowly, backed away, and sat in the corner booth we had for lottery players, just watching. I texted my boss. Weird guy won't leave. No response. He was probably drunk at some party. Time crawled. 1:45. He stood up, stretched, walked to the door, like he was leaving. Relief hit me, but he stopped, turned the open sign to closed, locked the door. My heart slammed against my ribs. Hey, what the hell are you doing? He turned, face blank, just making sure we're not interrupted. I reached for the phone to call 911. He was faster, lunged across the counter, grabbed my wrist, hard. His grip was ice cold. Easy, he whispered. I just want to talk. I yanked free, backed into the cigarette cabinet. Get out, now. He didn't move, just tilted his head. You ever think about how fragile all this is? He gestured around, at the shelves, the lights, me. One bad night, and it's gone. I hit the silent alarm under the counter. Prayed it worked. He noticed, smiled again. Too late for that. Then, headlights swept across the windows. A cop car, routine patrol, maybe checking businesses. He froze, watched as the cruiser slowed, spotlight sweeping the lot. In that second, he bolted, unlocked the door, vanished into the dark. The cop came in minutes later. I told him everything. They searched, found footprints leading to the woods behind the store, backpack abandoned nearby. Inside, duct tape, zip ties, a knife, and they never caught him. I quit the next week. Still, every New Year's Eve, I checked the locks 3 times, and I never, ever work late shifts alone. Some years don't start with hope. Sometimes they start with the sound of a door locking from the inside. Story 3. I remember the smell of that old hotel more than anything. The faint mix of cigar smoke baked into the walls and the sharp tang of pine cleaner they used in the lobby. My friends and I had booked rooms at the Monte Vista and Flagstaff for New Year's Eve 2019. It was one of those let's do something different trips. 5 of us, all in our late 20s, driving up from Phoenix for snow, cheap champagne, and the historic vibe. The place had been around since the 1920s. Clark Gable stayed there, Humphrey Bogart too. But mostly, we knew it from the ghost stories online. The lady in red wandering the halls, the bank robbers who died in the lounge, babies crying in the basement. We checked in late afternoon. The lobby was decorated with a tired string of lights and a drooping tree. The clerk, an older guy with a mustache like a broom, handed over old-fashioned keys and said with a wink, "Room 220 is available if you're feeling brave." We laughed it off and took rooms on the 3rd floor instead. That night, we bar hopped downtown, came back around 11, buzzing and cold. The hotel bar was still open, dim lights, jazz on the jukebox, a handful of locals nursing drinks. We ordered a round, toasted early. Midnight hit with cheers from the street outside, fireworks popping over the mountains. We stumbled upstairs around 1, giggling, planning to raid the vending machine. That's when we heard it. A woman crying, soft at first, like someone trying to muffle sobs in a pillow. It was coming from down the hall, past our rooms. We froze outside my door. Probably someone had a bad night, my friend Jess whispered, but it didn't stop. It got louder, wretched, heartbroken wailing, echoing off the wallpaper. We crept closer. The sound was definitely from room 220. The door was cracked open just an inch, light spilling out. No one had checked into it. The clerk said it was empty for renovations. I pushed the door wider with my phone flashlight. The room looked frozen in time. Floral bedspread turned down, old rotary phone on the nightstand. But the crying, it was right there, filling the space. Then we saw her, in the corner by the window, a woman in a red dress, back to us, shoulders shaking. Her hair was dark, pinned up like from an old photo. She didn't turn around. We backed out fast, hearts pounding. Jess slammed the door. The crying stopped instantly. We ran to the lobby. The night clerk was gone, desk empty, just a half-finished crossword. We called down from the stairs, no answer. Ended up piling into one room, doors locked, lights on, barely sleeping. Morning came grey and quiet. We asked the day clerk about 220. He shrugged. That's where she jumped. New Year's Eve, 1920s or 30s. Some say she still comes back every year, looking for the party that never ends. We checked out early, drove home in silence mostly. I looked it up later. The lady in red, thrown from the window after a fight with her lover on opening night or something close. Guests see her wandering, hear her crying. I don't stay in old hotels anymore on New Year's. Some invitations from the past. You just don't answer. Story 4. I never believed in ghosts until that night in my aunt's old Victorian house. She'd passed the summer before, and the family finally decided to spend the holidays there one last time before putting it on the market. It was just me, my cousin Leah, and her husband Mark. Everyone else had plans in warmer places. We arrived a couple days before Christmas, but the real turning point was New Year's Eve. The house had always felt heavy, like the air was thicker in certain rooms. Aunt Clara had lived there alone for decades after Uncle Ray died, collecting antiques, playing her old records late into the night. We figured we'd drink some wine, watch the ball drop on the ancient TV in the parlor, and toast to moving on. That evening, we decorated a little, hung some lights, put out the crystal glasses Aunt Clara loved. The house was quiet, except for the wind rattling the windows. Snow had started falling around dusk, blanketing everything in that muffled silence. We ate leftovers, laughed about old family stories, and around 10, Leah put on one of Aunt Clara's favorite records, an old jazz album from the 40s, the kind with crackly vinyl and slow, melancholy horns. It fit the mood perfectly. As midnight approached, we turned on the TV for the countdown. The power flickered a few times. Old wiring, we thought, but held steady. We poured champagne, clinked glasses at the stroke of 12, wished each other a better year. Fireworks popped faintly in the distance from town. It felt peaceful, almost. Then the record started again. We'd stopped it hours earlier. The player was off, needle up, but there it was, the same song, Midnight Serenade, or whatever it was called, playing softly from the parlor. Mark laughed it off first. Timer or something? But there was no timer. I went to check, and the switch was firmly off. I lifted the needle myself. Silence. We shrugged, blamed the house settling or a glitch, and went back to chatting. Half an hour later, it happened again. Same track. This time, Leah looked uneasy. Aunt Clara's favorite, she whispered. We'd heard her play it endlessly in her final years, especially around the holidays. She'd sit in her armchair by the fire, eyes closed, swaying just a little. I turned it off again. We decided to call it a night. I took the guest room upstairs, the one with the big 4-poster bed and the creaky floorboards. Leah and Mark were down the hall. I lay there in the dark, listening to the wind, trying to sleep. Around 2, maybe 3 in the morning, I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming up the stairs. Heel toe, like someone in slippers. The house was old, but creaked all the time. But these were rhythmic, purposeful. They stopped outside my door. I held my breath. Nothing. No knock. No voice. After a minute, they started again. Down the hall, toward the master bedroom, where Aunt Clara had slept. Then, nothing. I texted Leah. You hear that? She replied instantly. Yeah, thought it was you. We both got up. Met in the hallway with flashlights. Mark was already there, looking pale. I heard it too, he said, like someone pacing. We checked the whole upstairs. Empty. Doors locked from the inside. No footprints in the thin layer of dust on the floor, except ours. Back downstairs, the record was playing again. Low volume, but unmistakable. We unplugged the damn thing this time. pulled the cord from the wall. Silence. We didn't sleep much after that. Sat in the kitchen with the lights on, drinking coffee, waiting for dawn. Around 5, the footsteps came back, this time downstairs, pacing the parlor. Back and forth, back and forth. Leah started crying quietly. She doesn't want us to sell it, she said. She's lonely. I didn't believe that then. But when morning came and we went to the parlor, the record player was plugged in again, cord neatly coiled, like someone had fixed it. And on the armchair, Aunt Clara's favorite spot, there was an indentation in the cushion, fresh, like someone had been sitting there all night, listening. We left that day. The house sold a few months later to some couple who renovated everything. New wiring, new floors. They never mentioned anything odd. But Leah still has that record. She won't play it. And every New Year's Eve, no matter where we are, we get a group text from an unknown number around midnight. Just one word, listening. We block it every time. It always comes from a different number. Some habits die hard,